Drugs and Addiction, an Anarchist Perspective, Dickie Dredd. This is part 15 of the video series, and chapter 2 still, the childhood of fog. Section 13, the child as witness. Memory begins for me, not with play but with pressure. I have no recollection of lessons or playgrounds, no smell of chalk or sound of laughter. My only memory of primary school is being force-fed. The rest is just a fog. It's as if my mind decided that the price of survival was amnesia. What remains is the image of a spoon, a hand that wouldn't stop, and the taste of something unwanted, pressed past resistance. That small act, the obliteration of choice, became the shape of everything that followed. Seriously, I cannot remember anything about my primary school. Nothing. Dinner times at home were no better. They were the hour of dread, the nightly performance of normality under siege. Mum would be intoxicated by then, the conversation brittle and tense. The smell of barley wine and overcooked food hung in the air. What should have been nourishment became negotiation. I learnt to eat quickly, quietly, strategically. Food was never neutral again. Years later, I realised how many people with addiction histories also have stories of being forced to swallow. Food, feelings, silence. It's all the same gesture. You learn early that refusal is dangerous. That single surviving memory explains more than therapy ever could. The blank spaces around it feel deliberate, as if my mind shut the door on rooms that were too loud to enter. Mate calls trauma a memory that cannot become a story. That's exactly it. The senses are there, but unlit. The child in them watches, endures, learns not to flinch. Observation replaces participation. That's where the witness is born. I became expert at reading adults the way some kids read comics. Every gesture meant something. The way a cigarette was lit, the slight delay before an answer, the shape of silence in a room. It was field work conducted without consent. I wasn't looking for love, I was looking for warning signs. My mother's voice could change mid-sentence, soft to sharp, amused to accusing. You learned to feel the shift before it came. Lang described that kind of childhood perfectly. The family teaches one to not trust one's perception. That confusion can become a lifelong companion. At the time, I didn't see myself as frightened. Fear was simply the climate. I thought every family operated like weather fronts, pressure systems moving silently between people. When I started school, it felt like a continuation of the same experiment. Adults commanding, children performing. No wonder I remember nothing of it. Forgetting was the only rebellion available. To remember would have been to stay in the room. That dynamic, being fed what you can't stomach, being told to be grateful for it, shaped everything. It trained the reflex that later became addiction, to take in what hurts and call it comfort. When I first started drinking, I recognised the feeling immediately. The warmth, the heaviness, the surrender. It was dinner time again, only this time I was in charge of the spoon. The circle was complete. The child as witness grows into the adult who records. One Flew into the Cuckoo's Nest, that's the book I wrote on my life story, came from that instinct, to watch without power, to document the absurdity of control. Domestic version of the asylum had simply changed uniforms. School and family both rehearsed the same lesson. Authority defines reality. Anarchism for me began not in books, but in that small act of noticing the lie. For years I mistook endurance for strength, but endurance without expression is just petrified fear. The witness sees everything but cannot speak. That muteness is the root of later craving, the ache to dissolve into anything that feels alive. The substances that came later were not about experiment, they were about voice. They spoke for a child who couldn't. When I think about that single memory now, the spoon, the taste, and it was semolina, that's what it was. The silence, I see it as both wound and map. It marks the point where autonomy was first taken and where recovery had to begin. Addiction is often framed as excess. Mine began as absence, the absence of choice, of safety, of sound. From that absence grew the witness, and from the witness, eventually, the writer. And in the next section, still on chapter 2, and we'll cover love as condition, obedience as currency.